Well, I hope that you can all see me. Here we are at a special, real special moment, and it's really going to be momentous tonight. I want to welcome you all to this very special broadcast, and it's a beginning of a series of broadcasts that's going to be taking place over the next 2.5 weeks. And I tell you, it's going to be a real profound time. We're living in a time when, our world is rapidly changing, and we are suddenly caught up in an unprecedented event in human history. And I think it's very important that we especially understand the times we are in, because for so many people, there's just such a huge disconnection from the current realities of our time. And so we're going to be bringing you some exciting conversations. And I have a host of people who are going to be coming on board. And honestly, it's going to be something else. Just give me a moment here. Just toying around with technology a bit. It's really going to be an amazing time today. So I want you all to get ready, get your friends around you. Just bring as many people as you can around you, and let them know that something is happening, something amazing, something tremendous is taking place right now, right now. So our conversation is going to be looking at and trying to understand the world in which we live, especially within the context of it being a COVID world. So here we are. It's a different time and a different season, but we must naturally just key into all that God has for us for this time. And like I said, we must understand exactly where we are at this point in time. So I am Shola Adese. I'd like to welcome you to this special moment and to this special broadcast. Like I said, we're going to be here, and you're going to keep seeing the information come to you. We're going to be here over the next couple of weeks. And we must understand, the COVID-19 world. That's what I call it. So we're going to be looking at it from the perspective of the economy, health, family, job placements, and so on and so forth, and to understand the dynamics of our time. Today I have a very special guest. And this man can be appropriately called a futurist, is a business strategist, he's a disruptor. And I'm going to be bringing him on in a little moment. Again, you need to know that this is a broadcast of the Lighthouse Church. So right now, I am bringing up my brother from 1,000 miles away. His name is Olakunle Shorinyo. He's a business strategist. He's a futurist. Maybe he'll be telling us what that means. But he's someone who lives in the future.
Yeah.
He's a disruptor. And so this is a connection between Africa and the US right now, because he's connecting with us from probably over 12,000 nautical miles or so.
Yeah.
So PK, as
Yes,
I like
sir.
to call you, really good having you.
Thank you, sir.
Platform, and thank you really for accepting to come.
It's always a honor and a privilege to fellowship with you and to be in your court, sir. I feel highly blessed and inspired every time this has to happen. So I really thank you again for the gift of access, and for allowing me to contribute to the awesomeness that is going on with the work. I feel highly blessed to be connected to God's people again and to the world on this platform. Thank you, sir.
That that is awesome. So, well, so what's it like over there where you are? Here, so we're in the middle of quarantine,
Yeah.
and we just had two extra weeks added to us.
Yes. Yes.
So I think Nigerians are freaking out. We've never been this way before.
Yeah. I mean, the United States is the epicenter, of COVID right now. We are
Yeah.
dealing with hundreds of thousands of cases. We pretty much are up to about 500,000 now. And the truth is, according to the projections, the United States is projected to be dealing with about 200,000 deaths, within the next 2 weeks. But
Wow.
the authorities are working tirelessly to defeat that statistic and to pretty much trump it. The government is working hard, and there's a complete lockdown almost everywhere. Dallas, where I am, is a bit light,
Hmm.
but we are still pretty much on lockdown, except for
Yeah.
essential services like the mall and all of that. So it's the same thing anywhere. I think a common coffin has come to the whole world,
Mhm.
and it has eliminated all ranks. Just like they say, there's no rank in the grave. You know, there's pretty much no rank in this.
No, right. Yeah.
But it's nothing new about all of this. It's all complete setup for where the world has to be at this time, and that's the exciting part for us
Mhm.
to look at how we can position in this time and take advantage of what the real agenda is, because none of
Yeah.
this is just happenstance. You know.
I know that. I know that. Let me say a couple of things, and I need to feel your pulse.
Yes, sir.
Thomas Friedman redefined our world when he
Mm,
wrote his book, which is now an international bestseller
yeah.
and
Yes.
titled "The World Is
The world
Flat."
is flat. Yes.
Now, you and I went to school and we studied geography,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
were taught that the world is round.
Yeah.
So here's a disruptor, crazy guy, who who postulates that the world isn't round, the world is flat. And
Yeah.
he supported it, very clearly when
Yeah.
he began to say, so he was using a metaphor to say that it's a level playing field right now.
Yes. Yes.
uh, he went ahead to say that countries and nations and people that thought they once had an advantage no longer have that advantage, because even nations and countries that are far off grid of
Yeah.
development now
Yeah.
are open to a level playing field.
Yes. Yes.
He also highlighted certain flatteners and things that flatten the world.
Yeah.
Maybe just mentioning a few of them: the collapse of the Berlin Wall. So
Yeah.
now you East meets West. It was a huge flattener.
Yes.
The introduction of Netscape, workflow software, uploading,
Yeah. Yeah.
outsourcing,
Yeah.
offshoring, and so on and
Yeah.
so forth. But
Yes.
you see, we're at a time again when our world is being redefined.
Yeah.
Um, this year, the world that we have known will never be the same again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Correct.
the reason is because of some microscopic organism called a
Mm.
virus
Mm.
that is not even visible to the naked eye.
I mean,
COVID-19 has shown itself to be more powerful than the armies of the world.
yes.
That we must even redefine security from
Mm.
a totally different perspective, because
Mm.
now we're looking at security from a health perspective.
Mm.
Again, there's no overemphasizing the fact that this is a pandemic of biblical proportions.
Mm-hmm.
And this has introduced a crisis from the smallest to the greatest nation.
Correct.
Now, a crisis is a revealer and an unveiler.
Mm.
So the thing now is, what is COVID-19 revealing?
Mm.
I want to put that to you,
Yes, sir.
because our world is redefined, and it will never be the
Correct.
same again. And how do
Correct.
we fit into this new evolving and emerging world?
Correct. Correct. Thank you so much, Pastor. This for me is, I'm 49. I'm a few months away from being 50.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, just a few months. And I say that I've seen 10 years 4 times, with some 9 years extra, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I've had the privilege of being a keen observer of the global culture for at least um, 20, 25 years out of those 49. And I've seen the world evolve. We were around in the 70s when the world was pretty much analog.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't have mobile technology like we have it today.
Not at all.
We didn't have nanotechnology, electronics, and all of what make devices look so little and put multi devices in one.
Mm-hmm.
Those days our camera was separate from our calendar, from the
Yeah.
TV, from our printer, from our scanner. Everything was just apart. Now we have everything in a small device called a
Mm-hmm.
telephone.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen the world change. In 1978, uh, Kodak was blessed to be presented with the uh, digital filming, and they rejected it because of their loyalty to paper films.
Paper plate.
And they got so loyal, they
Mm.
forgot that it was things were going to change.
Mm.
And which is the balance of loyalty. There's
Yeah.
something called creative rebellion, which
Wow.
is necessary for us to be able to maintain the beauty of a prevailing idea or a prevailing system or a prevailing technology while remaining alert for its expiry. I
Oh.
guess that was the same thing that arrested the Pharisees and the Sadducees, that they were so loyal to the law, they missed the Messiah.
Oh, yes.
So we can't be so loyal to something and forget it's going to change.
Mm.
The ideological construct that defines that thing will remain unchangeable, but the methods that expresses it will be changing in response to changing people, changing markets, and changing times. You
Wow.
know, so we can either wait for time to wake us up to change, or we can preempt it by disrupting ourselves and probably taking a self-check, a self-audit of our systems and structures every 90 days, and
Mhm.
ask ourselves if it is still in alignment with the reality of what is ahead of us. I
Every
think we have been,
90 days.
yes, and I
Whoa.
think we have been woken up again to another one through COVID.
Yeah.
Since for the world as a whole, every 500 years, there's a component that hits the church every
Hmm.
500 years. And it pretty
Wow.
much goes on to change the civilization of the world as we know it. Every
Mhm.
500 years. The
Wow.
last 500 years was the Martin Luther Reformation,
Absolutely. Yeah.
which brought the concept of faith, introduced paper printing, brought quite a lot of things to the world and challenged the church, changed our theology, moved
Yeah.
us to a new way of understanding theology, and
Yeah.
then changed the world from its prevailing understanding of commerce
View
and
system.
industry and general human exchange at that time,
Mhm.
right? Now, 2017 was the end of that 500 years.
Hmm.
Okay? So, in 2017, a new world began again. But every time, change is one of the underrated concepts in the world today. And the
Hmm.
business schools have not helped us
Helped.
because they've spoken about ideas like birthing change, like leading change, which are, as far as I'm concerned, pure fallacies most of the time. They are
Hmm.
just technicalities that human beings use to offer themselves comfort. When in real dynamics, people know that nobody is in charge of change except God. And because
Amazing.
science has not matured to the level of understanding where it can capture the essence of the maker of life, they
Whoa.
miss the concept of God in their articulation of change. Because when you look at it, science agrees, philosophy and psychology and socialism, social thinking agrees that the only factor that cannot change in the world is change. I mean, and then the scripture says that the Lord is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So
That
if 2 plus
consistency.
2 is 4, and 2 multiplied by 2 are both equal to 4,
Four.
then if change does not change and God does not change, then God is change. It's just
Change.
logic. because because God does not change, change
Yeah.
does not change.
Mm-hmm.
It means change is equal to God.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what I say therefore is that once it becomes God, there is a non-human element to how we understand the character of change. And once we accept that kind of thinking, we must see change as a noiseless effect. It means that change in its earliest form is noiseless, which defines the weakness of man and enthrones the awesomeness and the sovereignty of God. Because, for example, when a woman conceives and she's pregnant, you know, the day she gets pregnant, on the day of conception, she doesn't feel anything.
Feel
There's no
anything.
bones coming together. I say, oh, you are pregnant. You know, there's no noise,
It's a
noiseless
normal thing.
effect. Yet a completely human life has begun to grow in that woman. I mean, the day someone contacts COVID-19 or HIV, there's no alarm that goes off and say
Yeah.
you are now HIV positive or you now have COVID. Meanwhile, a major change that can destroy your life has just begun in your life. You know, when virtue left David, left Samson, he wasn't aware.
He
The Bible
wasn't
said he got up like before.
before,
You
but
know, when Saul was dethroned as king, the crown was still on his head for 19 years. Meanwhile, a major shift had occurred. So I'm saying all of that to say that change is a noiseless effect, you know, and this is where men, kings, and powers must be humble to understand that except there is a connection to the non-human element, we always miss the earliest arrival of change, which is why COVID has caught the whole world napping. But those of us who stay in scriptures, who understand the Bible says we are the sons of Issachar, we should be like the sons of Issachar, who understood the times. We were few and we're more honorable. And we wouldn't know the name as COVID, we wouldn't know the name as a pandemic, but we knew that we are in a season of change, Pastor Charles. And we understood very clearly that people need to begin to readjust. And what all of this means to the world right now is we have received a new type of world that is governing how we play, how we work, how we learn, how we love, even how we war. You know, the old generals and the armies of the world have now seen the possibilities of biowarfare, you know, and that, you know, I mean, there are even conspiracy theories out there that China pretty much originated all of this drama, which are symposium discussions for later. But these are realities. And the question we should ask ourselves is, what does this take away from the world? What does it bring? And what do we need to do in responding to this? I think those are the key questions we must be giving answers to at this time.
I agree with you. You know, you mentioned an event in history that, I mean, I can clearly relate with when you're talking about change being noiseless, and that is the Reformation of Martin Luther.
Yes,
it was an ordinary day. There was no earthquake. There was no thunder and lightning.
No.
Man had been in a state of flux on the inside. And out of that, he wrote 95 theses. I mean, you can imagine a man who takes his pen and puts it to paper and he shapes the foundation of religion, and we are still beneficiaries of it.
Yes.
Takes the 95 theses and nails it to the door of the church in Wittenberg. And that began the Reformation. Noiseless. It was quiet. But you see, for every time he hit the nail on that door, there was a vibration and a repercussion.
Mm.
Just like with COVID, there is a vibration and a
Yes,
repercussion.
sir.
I mean,
Yes.
look, um, I don't know about you, but I've never experienced, what you call this kind of lockdown,
Mm.
um, that has extended restricted movement for, a long period of time,
Yes.
where you're stuck with your spouse. So
Yes.
I'm at home with, I'm at I'm at home with my wife. The children are not with us, and we're having to live a different life because normally
Completely.
you're in and out. So you're not in each other's faces for a prolonged period. Now
Mm.
you're in and out. Now you wake up together. You're in each other's space, and having to manage that relationship is requiring new skills altogether.
Yes.
and, and all of this is the new reality that we are faced with.
Mm.
Let's look at leadership, because every leader, whether it's in government, in church, in whatever organization or structures of society, every leader is being tested today.
Mm-hmm.
So the American president is going through probably the most difficult test of his.
Difficult.
Um, the Nigerian president is also going through his.
Mm-hmm.
The governors
Mm-hmm.
in Nigeria are going through theirs. The
Yes.
church itself and
Yes.
the leadership of the church is also being tested.
Yes.
Now, whether these leaders pass the test or not is another ball game. But people are watching,
Yeah.
people are listening, and at the end of the day, people are arriving to conclusions about quality of leadership.
Correct.
So the idea that a crisis, so this is part of what COVID is revealing.
Yes.
It is revealing from, across the globe, the quality of leadership at every level of leadership that we can ever find. So, Nigerians are asking, their president questions today. And, at a point when he didn't address the nation, lots of people felt,
Yes.
at a crisis moment, even if you're going to say nothing, let's see your face and just,
Correct.
we're going to be fine. But
Correct.
then again, it took quite a while to get him on,
Yeah.
Then you have a Trump in the US who feels this is his show.
Yeah.
And he's constantly, and then you have the church as well. You
Yes.
know, when quarantine came in, the church initially resisted it and felt, look, what's the point?
Yeah.
We're spiritual people.
Mm.
There's no sickness, there's no disease that would come on
Mm.
us, and we must have liberty of worship. And
Mm-hmm.
people are looking at all that and asking questions. So
Yes.
again, COVID is redefining leadership.
Yes. Correct. Correct. Totally. Totally. It's totally redefining leadership. And if you ask me what the number one effect of a post COVID-19 is going to be,
Mhm.
it will be the shift in power dynamics as we know it. You know, new voices are rising. The next decade, I have a conference I run every year, January, where I pretty much forecast the contents of the new year and, share what people need to hold on to socioeconomically and politically. Um,
Yeah.
and part of what we had said so clearly is that 2020 is a bad year for the next 10 years. The whole of 2021 to 2030 will be sleeping on the things that we do in 2020, you know. And it's so critical that we understand what that means because at the end of the decade, there will have been a major disruption to life as we know it. And whatever we are facing now is just the beginning, is the earliest introduction to what is ahead of us. And we have to see that imperative. It's so critical.
Hmm.
Part of that is that, jobs are changing, the business model of the world is changing,
Exactly.
systems
Exactly.
of governments are changing.
Hmm.
I say to people that within the next 30 years, if the Lord tarries, within the next 30 years, we're going to find that power will have shifted across different spaces, you
Spaces.
know, all over the world.
Hmm.
And part of this shift, basically, will be because if you add 30 years to the life of a 5-year-old, he will
Hmm.
be 35.
Yeah.
A 10-year-old will be 40.
Before the
A 20-year-old will be
50.
50 in 30
Yeah.
years' time. Now,
And a
a
50-year-old,
60-year-old will be 90.
90.
A 70-year-old will be 100,
Hmm.
you know. And anyone that is above 50 now, whoever is above 50 now,
Hmm.
is going to be at the departure lounge of life in 30 years' time if they have not taken the flight. It's safe to say so. I mean, it's not wishing anybody dead. It's not, prophesying any doom. It's not even a prophecy. It's just nature that in 30 years' time, I will be 79. I will be a year from being 80. So the the most critical constituency now for leadership is the children, because they are the adults of
Wow.
2049. They are the
Wow.
adults. I said to a group of pastors last week that children's church is now more critical than any
Critical.
other arm of the church. You know, and part of, if we move beyond that and we come to reality now, um, one thing that COVID is also saying is the reality of life without human contact, life without
Yeah.
physical human contact.
Hmm.
And social media is the instrument of that.
Instrument. That's right.
You know, technology are the instruments of that.
I mean,
And
look at this
while,
platform.
technology is going to give us speed, efficiency, is also going to bring the loss of meaning to our life and the loss of empathy. And we know that the loss of empathy is a critical human experience pre-Antichrist.
Hmm.
You know, the world of the Antichrist is going to run on a world without empathy. I mean, if I put a 20-year work in my computer, a 20-year work in my computer, and an adversary gain access to that computer and
Hmm.
decides to delete a 20-year work, once he presses delete, the computer is not going to say, oh, but why are we doing that to him? Is this a 20-year work? The computer doesn't feel it. It has no
Yeah.
empathy. It's just going to delete it off, you know. So a machine driven world is
World.
going to be without a lot of empathy, apart from the fact that the physical connection of touch, and time together of fellowship, will be missing. But
Decrease.
that
Yeah.
does not in any way suggest that technology is evil.
Mm-hmm.
Technology is a reality of our time. God is the inventor of
Venture of
technology
technology.
and is
Yeah.
the giver of ideas, even to the guys in the scientific world. They
Hmm.
are all working for a supreme agenda that transcends their own thinking. And God has given us a model that we should use. It should not be different from sex that God created for marriage and people abuse in fornication and rape. It will,
Yeah.
it will be as simple as that. 5G is a necessary technology for our world today. We need
Wow.
5G.
You've hit you've hit something real big. You know, here we are. Here we are with conspiracy theories. I mean, the 5G thing hit the airwaves. I don't know what it was like, where you are in Texas, but here in Nigeria, it was something else. And
It was.
a lot of fear, and sadly, the
Yes.
church was, at the foundation of fueling and pushing this.
Terrible.
5G is,
Terrible.
is the reason for corona and all of those things. Now, I mean, we're using whatever G now. I mean, we're on fiber here. I guess you're on fiber.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
means we're getting the best of 4G technology. And look at
Yes,
what's
sir.
going on. So, like you said, yeah, technology is a tool, is as much a tool in the hands of God
Yes.
as it is or can be in a tool in the hands of the devil. So
Correct.
it's amoral. It's neither
Yes.
moral nor immoral. But
Yes.
I think you should say a couple of things about 5G.
Yes.
I did a write-up on conspiracy theories recently to try to debunk it.
Awesome.
But hearing from
Awesome.
you, I think it's going to be needful and will help a lot of people also.
Yes. I mean, I've told everyone that cared to listen that there's no future in the next 7 years of the world without 5G technology. The ideas that are in the minds of guys in Silicon Valley, the type of things boys in Kremlin wants to do, the type of things that people are architecting in the Pentagon, in NASA, even in Hollywood, in 10 Downing Street, in Kremlin, in Beijing, ideas have become so huge that they've transcended the present 4G technology.
Wow.
And it is impossible for it's like someone trying to, if we didn't have 3G and 4G, we will not be talking as we are talking
We
today.
won't.
you
We
know
won't.
Whoever we wrestle that out of human life, will have denied us the opportunity to be able to do what we are doing today. you
That's right.
know and 5G is going to introduce us to new possibilities in technology. It's going to give us speed unimaginable. It's going to
Mhm.
allow us, to communicate at a level, unthinkable before now. You
That's
know,
right.
a lot of AI technology that God has blessed humanity with, we can't come into them. Evangelism will be completely arrested because
Hmm.
Generation Z and millennials have come
Wow.
by themselves to a state of restlessness that they have to be caught at a speed, you know,
Whoa.
and the
Whoa.
technology of today cannot communicate with the restlessness of
Hmm.
Generation Z.
Wow.
The average kid today can take your laptop and show you stuff
And
that
show
you
you.
don't even know. And I'm not talking of a teenager. I'm saying a 5 year old, a 3 year
That's
old.
right.
My son, I mean, brings out things in my phone and I'm saying, what? This is in my phone and he's doing stuff with it because God Himself has
Hmm.
placed something. There's a genetic coding in the lives of the kids that
Yes.
have been born in the last 10 to 5 years. And they have been born with a type of awareness that
Hmm.
will help them to reign and build their own dynasty and master their own generation. And
Hmm.
so, whoever is resisting 5G, I'm sorry, and I say this with deep respect for those who have been on that path,
Yeah.
must have displayed a level of arrogance for years, and it's probably God's time to show them that they know nothing. I call it confident ignorance. The
Whoa.
idea that you know nothing, but you are not aware. And you have to all of your intelligence must come to a place of foolishness below the wisdom of God to remind you and all of those who congregate around you that there's a crack in your structure and you need to pause. Just like God had to send a donkey to speak to the madness of a prophet.
For
A
prophet.
lot of voices that have been on ground now are being disrupted, and
Hmm.
God is putting a virus right there within their own operation, just like God turned the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness.
Into
A
foolishness.
lot of voices need to be outdated in this time. And all of those who depend on those voices are going to have to see the confident display of the ignorance that
Hmm.
drives that particular voice so that everyone can begin to align. We are transcending the days of miracles, sir. The truth of the fact that miracle is finally receiving its true authentic design from God,
Wow.
because all of what we call miracles are not the miracle. They are the
Hmm.
drama and the logo and the shell of the miracle. In
Hmm.
every miracle in the Bible, there's always the drama of the miracle and the principle of the
Of
miracle.
the miracle.
And a lot of times we are caught up in the drama and we
Dra-
miss the miracle.
Miracle.
And the reason why we do that is because our ignorance per time, when the idea of God is avant-garde, and God is tolerating our ignorance by keeping his principles within a block that we can understand. Essentially, that's the only reason why there was a law of Moses in the first place. It
that's
wasn't God's best, but it
best
was the best they can understand
to
in their own
accommodate
time,
man's mindset.
by their own primitive thinking and
That's
their
right.
primitive time. In the
Mhm.
same way that there was an Old Testament, the New Testament was not afterthought. The New Testament was the agenda, but the primitivity of the times of biblical history could not handle the contents of the new and the weight of what Christ has come to represent. And so God had to create a palliative measure, sensitive to the ignorance of the people of a time, to help them to understand that. And
Wow.
that is where we are. I make bold to say that everything we call science is explainable spirituality.
Spiritually.
And everything we call spirituality is yet to be
Yeah.
understood science, because
Mm.
God is not a magician. And
No.
everything God does are explainable and understandable. But because of our ignorance, when we see him, we will understand all that he
And
has done. But for now, we see in part, we
yeah, you
prophesy in
prophesy
part
in part.
because of the limit of human understanding. But
Mm.
God is not into illusion, because illusion and deception is the strength of
It's the
magic.
same. Exactly.
God is a planner, an orchestrator. But
Mm.
if anybody had brought Bluetooth technology to the wilderness in the time of Moses, he will
Moses.
have competed heavily with the prophetic grace of Moses. If anybody could show the Israelites
Mhm.
yesterday, I mean, in the wilderness, they couldn't see yesterday because there
Yeah.
were no cameras, there were no TVs. You want to say something for the shots? Let me pause.
No,
Let me pause.
I'm just going with you. I mean, you're talking about Bluetooth and the competition with Moses.
I mean, that would be huge. And the reality is, in the time, in biblical times, mystery is greeted with devotion.
Hmm.
The moment, the moment you initiate any form of mystery, the only way people respond is through they just call you a god of some
God.
sort. Even Apostle Paul was called a god because
That's
of a superiority of expression at a time.
yeah.
They said, they want to worship him, and he had to remind them that no, 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 I'm a
I'm just
man like
like
you. There's
you.
a force in me that I need to
Mm.
introduce you to. Even Daniel was almost worshipped, and he had to tell them, no, 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 no. There's a God in me that is at work. So mystery activates devotions.
Mm.
Particularly when a land is filled with a high level of ignorance.
Ignorance, especially.
And that is why people resist technology. The arrogance of science, excuse me, the arrogance,
That's all right.
of science today, sir, the arrogance of science today was created by the apathy of the church, because even the church does not see what is going on in the scientific work as
Hmm.
God's gift to humanity. And so no Christian is claiming the authority of God and his sovereignty in science. So the scientist has no choice than to think he's the one doing it by himself. You know, so he thinks he's the one creating stuff, because even those who belong to God are attacking him and saying he's not of God.
Instead of
You
God.
know, meanwhile, the internet, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all of that are
All of
God's
them is
creation,
God's
are
creation.
God's gift to
Exactly.
man. And they are all evangelistic tools for the
Tools
advancement of God's
of the
kingdom.
kingdom.
There is going to be abuse of it, no doubt. In the
That's
same way,
right.
there's abuse of marriage, there's abuse of sex, there's
Mm-hmm.
abuse of humanity, there's
Mm-hmm.
abuse of children
Mm-hmm.
not being used in the way that God designed them to be used. And pre-rapture capacity is available for the church to use these things. There is a
Wow.
higher level of abuse post-rapture, which is not our headache, really. We should focus on why God is sharing all of this with
That's
us,
correct.
which is pre-rapture sensitive initiatives that we need
Yeah.
to launch on the back of all of this technology that God is releasing. That God is releasing. 5G, I mean, churches need to begin to rally around, to begin to redefine and disrupt their ways of
Ways of
evangelism and reaching out. For
pushing out.
example, the Naira is getting weaker on a daily basis in Nigeria, for example. It is
Yeah.
no longer sensible or smart to continue to earn in Naira. to
Wow.
continue to depend on naira. There is global money available. It's
Hmm.
only technology that can allow us to collect
Allow
money
access to
from
it.
all over the world and bring it to
That's
headquarters
right.
in Lagos. We
That's
can
right.
only do that through a robust partnership program. The whole
That's
world is ready to give to Pastor Shola's message, for example, but without technology, how is that going to happen? You
you
know,
know.
and so product development needs to be
Wow.
disrupted.
Wow.
Partnership programs, financial partnership programs need to be disrupted so that the world can give to our cause and we can enter into another realm of earning beyond the limits of our geography. And that is what technology brings.
Hmm.
And there's so much, but I think you want to say something, Pastor, before.
Well, you're, you're like a train, a moving train that has no brakes. I mean, but that's really why we have you here. In case you're just joining us, this is a massive conversation with none other than this great man of God, disruptor, futurist. I don't know what to call him. Polymath, call him anything you can ever imagine. Olakunle Shoyinka, joining us all the way from Texas, USA. I mean, we can go on and on. You touched on something that for me critical, and then we've got a couple of questions that
Yes.
people are putting on, and I think it'll be good, for you
Great.
to respond to
Great.
them. You talked
Great.
about technology and the naira and how we must begin to think about earning in foreign currency, because again, those currencies have experienced stability through time. That even if
Yes.
there are fluctuations, they're very, very minor. The Nigerian
Yes.
naira is constantly under an assault of
Constantly.
devaluation, and
Constantly.
we really do not even know where that is going.
Correct.
Again, coming to my constituency, where for us as a local assembly, we have been pushing a cashless policy for the church. So through time, we had, ensured that the people would use POS machines or use
Awesome.
USSDs and so on and so
Awesome.
forth. So
Awesome.
I try to imagine a local assembly that has not deployed that technology.
Yes.
And now the people cannot meet, which basically means income has come to a complete cessation. And some knew about technology, but just felt, look, why are we bothering ourselves? We're
Yeah.
used to this old way. If it is
Preference.
not counted and is not touched physically, it's not
Yes.
real.
Yes.
This electronic payment thing somehow. Okay, I think you've got family behind it.
Yeah. I have family behind.
That's okay. So
We are homeschooling now. We are homeschooling. So
that is so needful. I mean,
I tell you. No,
everyone.
sorry to that. Yeah.
No.
Sorry to cut you up. Yes.
No, that's where it is. So truly, there needs to be a major paradigm shift, and people must be willing to step into
Yes. Yes.
deeper waters and
Correct.
step into the unknown.
Correct.
Just try and get to understand, what we're talking about, and
Yes.
be willing to take a leap. I
Correct.
call it a leap of
Correct.
faith.
Correct.
Call it an
Correct.
experiment. Just make the effort instead of being
Correct.
locked up in your own
Correct.
world,
Correct.
thinking you've walked the length, the breadth, of your own space, and not knowing that
Correct.
there are more territories to conquer. God
Yes.
was saying to Joshua, he said to him, you're going to see certain signs of movement,
Mm.
the cloud, the
Mm.
fire,
Mm.
watch the ark. He said,
Mm.
because you're about to step into a territory, and I know what your apprehensions will be because you've never been this way before.
Correct.
So in the
Correct.
business world, every business would need to upgrade.
As a matter of fact.
Families, you're talking about homeschooling.
Yeah.
Homeschooling will need to be embraced.
Oh yes. Oh
As
yes.
I know in America, it's big, and you
Yes.
have the option to either choose to homeschool
Yes.
your child,
Yes.
and there's a
Yes.
curriculum. I've got a friend, a couple who homeschooled their two children
Great.
right from the beginning to the end in America. So it's
Great.
going to be an option. And
Yes.
for
It's
you
gonna
to
be.
cool. Even you as a parent, man, your competence,
That's it.
you got to upgrade.
The truth of the matter is that in the future, a lot of what we know today are not going to be there. I put up some things that I documented and said, you know, cars are going to be driverless, for example.
Oh,
That's going to
yes.
wipe out a lot of jobs. Cabs are going. Uber itself will be disrupted,
Will be
except it
disrupted.
becomes the owner of the technology of driverless,
Yeah.
lessness. So the thing is, we have moved into a borderless economy. We are going to speak less and less of developing and underdeveloped world. We're
Yeah.
going to speak more and more of smart, smarter, and smartest nations.
Mhm.
Because we are going to be dealing with technology as the driver of meaning, of ideas. We are going to be disrupting democracy as we know it. And we are going to be coming into what is called technocracy. Two
Wow.
words, two words that are going to
Democracy.
go viral in the next 10, 15 years. Two words are going to go viral. Borderlessness is going to go viral. Borderlessness and technocracy is going to go viral. And those are two systems that will determine how we love, how we work, how we play, how we work, how we do business, how we do everything. And it's a world where technology becomes the driver of everything, and technologists becomes the owners of everything. So, so
Technology
it means
driver, technologist is the owner.
yes. MBA is going to take the back seat. MBAs are going to be they're going to be secondary instruments. The primary instruments of the executive of today, of a post-COVID world, is going to be technology. So
Technology.
the executive of the future is a technologist. Is a technologist first before is any other thing.
The other thing.
So the implication of that is if a hospital, for example, is functioning to be pre-COVID, a hospital at best uses technology to treat people,
People.
right? At best. In post-COVID, right, the hospital will be a technology organization that is treating people.
Wow.
There's a flip.
Wow.
A church is not going to be an organization using technology to reach people. No. A church is going to be a technology organization that is reaching people.
Reaching people.
So it's
That
a
is
thin line. Technology becomes what we do. Our mission becomes front door. So tech becomes the end, while technology becomes the means to the end.
means
So
to the end.
so technology will not be back door anymore. It's going to be front door to the
Yeah.
churches, to the
Yeah.
restaurants, to the hospital, to
Yeah.
the schools. Technology is front door. Pre-COVID, technology was back door. We use technology to support what we are doing offline. Now, technology is what we are doing.
Look at
Offline is going to support what we are doing online.
look at what happened with Zoom.
That's it.
In the last 1 week, I have had probably 7 meetings.
I mean,
Now, pre-COVID, hey, look, and I'm not talking about live broadcasts. I'm talking about
yes,
bringing the church
yes,
into meetings,
yes,
different aspects and
yes,
different groups in the church, and without
yes,
changing my physical location.
yes.
And this is
Which
what
gives us speed, buys us more time,
more time,
gives us more efficiency. We are more
saves
effective.
us less.
It eliminates a lot of stress in traffic, in driving.
Yeah,
We are able to be with family more.
exactly.
The value is priceless. It's going to go haywire, post rapture. But
Hmm.
for now, is an incredible value that we must maximize.
Exactly.
There's never been work-life balance like we have it today. I mean, talk about work-life balance. We have it by force now.
All right, PK. I have a question that's coming on the
Yes.
screen from Emmanuel Ifeanyi Uwandulu, and he says,
Yes, sir.
he just puts this out. The global food supply chain is a major concern for me. How will the world deal with food shortages?
So very good question. Let me quickly let the world know right now that we are in post-COVID already. So many people are waiting for the lockdown to get off the line before their post-COVID can start. But I tell everybody that post-COVID began the moment China opens its doors. And the principle for that conclusion is that if somebody says, I am poor and my poverty has made me a prostitute, then it means everybody poor should be a prostitute. Once we have one person who is poor and is a doctor, then the assertion that the poverty created the prostitution is fallacy automatically. So in the same way, Nigeria can enter the new year before New York.
Yes.
Because New York is not in 2020 as a January 31st night, does not stop Nigeria from coming into 2020.
Yeah.
So China is already in post-COVID because the chief executive of Adidas said that their factory in China is working at 100% capacity already.
Wow.
So China is in post-COVID. And because China is already in post-COVID, it means the whole world is in post-COVID already. So whether we're on lockdown or not, post-COVID has begun. And China is enjoying an advantage right now economically. And the world has to catch up to see how to circumvent that if they are interested. If America wants to be the largest economy, he has to do all he can to create a plan for that. Now, I said that to say that in a post-COVID world, supply chain is a major conversation. So this gentleman just came into a very critical area. Yeah. Now, in a post-COVID world, trust me, we used to know what is called the 1% and the 99%. This is very important, Pastor Charles. Okay, the 1% and the 99%. Right. Pre-COVID, when we hear the 1%, we think of billionaires, However, to be in the 1%, you only need to earn $35,000 a year. Once you are earning $35,000 a year, you are in the 1%. That 1% we talk about, you are in it. So whoever is earning like 15 million a month, about 12 to 30 million naira a month, is already in the 1%. Now, then else is in the 99%. 9%, but yeah. in pre-COVID, please, guys, I need you to get this. I need you all to get this, guys. In pre-COVID, the 1% and the 99% coexisted with full rights and balance of power. Each party, the 99%, decided how they will share their service, how they will share their skills. They negotiated their value. They were coexisting in a balance of power structure with the 1%. In post-COVID, and post-COVID is divided into three. There is a post-COVID from now till January and the first quarter of next year. There's a second post-COVID from 2021 to 2030. And there's a third post-COVID from 2030 and beyond. Now, the post-COVID I'm talking about is the post-COVID from now till 2030. From today till 2030. That post-COVID is going to shift the coexistence of the 1% and the 99% to a dependence of the 99% on the 1%. The 1% is going to control 100% the 99%. And
say that again, please.
the 99% are no longer going to coexist with the 1%, determining the use of their skills or their talents or their services. They are going to be dependent on the 1%. The 1% is going to completely control the 99%. The game-changing factor now is to see how to exist in the 1%. Because in post-COVID, small businesses and medium businesses are going to be arrested completely. They are going to almost disappear. It's not by the doing of anyone, it's just how the scarcity of opportunity is going to shape the system and the environment. And I'll give you a perfect case study. Amazon. Amazon, the rise of Amazon as a company, swallowed so many small businesses into their supply chain.
That's right.
And so it became a powerful monopoly that it was impossible for small businesses to find expression except they put their business model under the logistics of Amazon. Amazon therefore became the controller and the determinant factor of how those small businesses exist, right? And those small businesses had to find room within the business model of Amazon. Talk about 1% controlling the 99%. And so supply chain in the world is going to all merge into the logistics and the business model of the big corporations, of the big organizations. And so the big question for small businesses, answering that gentleman's question, should be, how do we come into the 99% in such a way that we become compelling within that structure, that the 1% cannot exist without my business model? You see, so you are not going to have short supply of food. You are going to have a regulated supply of food because it's going to be within the control of a few organizations. And sir, let me say this very disruptive thought. If you look at China today, China is the perfect model of the new system of government post-COVID, because post-COVID is going to bring a more control of government in socioeconomic life. Government is going to determine how a lot of things are going to work, and the private machine that is going to remain powerful in that kind of system must be operating at a compelling level of ideation, such that it can compel the government to negotiate with him or her at a level. And guys, that right there is the advantage of the child of God, because we own idea by the blessing of a walking, talking relationship with the Holy Ghost. Never before will you need to speak in tongues like we have to do now, because every time you say Libro Santarabosa, you are not just wasting time. You are coming into a creative zone. You are coming into an imaginative zone that's going to begin to drop ideas, compelling monopolistic ideas, stronger than Amazon, into our lives. Hallelujah. Businesses are going to emerge in the next 10 years that will shape the economic landscape, and Christian businesses are coming into that. We've heard about transfer of wealth. This is the time. When the Bible says your gates shall not be locked day or night, it is online business it's talking about. He said, no longer shall the sun give you light, nor the moon give you light. He said, the Lord shall be your everlasting light. That is the force of technology coming to keep our gates open 24/7. 24/7. It's amazing, sir.
PK. Well, this is PK on fire. You know, this is mind blowing. You know, and well, let me move on. Someone's asked a question that I want to put on.
Sir.
I know you've touched on it a bit, and it's from John Ewule. He says, human interaction one-on-one has been a key to a healthy society. What is the future of an empathy devoid and non-interactive society? What happens to us when we were growing up? And we've seen society change.
Yes, sir.
You and I belong, to the same kind of age bracket. When we're growing up, you left home and wandered into your neighbor's house, and
correct.
had lunch there. I mean, nobody
Correct.
was thinking of poisoning you.
Correct.
Such a liberty. Your parents knew if you were not in this house, you were in that house.
Correct.
But right now, the walls have come up, in the name of security.
Yes.
There's a generation that is protected, that's not having physical contact, that has
Correct.
to learn to relate based, on technology platforms.
Correct.
So, what is the future of an empathy devoid and non-interactive society?
Yes.
We're kind of edging there gradually, but
Yes.
it's and this is a valid question because
Yes.
So what do you
So
what would
so
you to
so
that?
so part of what we have to understand is that there are four concepts destroying the world right now. And one of them is secularism. And but one of them is also technology. As it is blessing the world, there is a consistent abuse of technology, which we cannot do anything about. And I need to remind Christians not to take the mind of the world in analyzing global events. I think part of what is wrong is that we think like the world is thinking. And the Bible says, call the confederacy what they call a confederacy, fear not what they fear. You sanctify to yourself the Lord of hosts, him you shall fear, dread, and it shall be a covering unto you. And that is why he said, that's where he said, I and the sons the Lord has given me, we are for signs and wonders in Israel. And so the thinking of the Christian should be borderless and should be timeless. Eternal thinking is the only way the Christian should think. Because the truth is, whether we like it or not, darkness will cover the earth.
Yeah.
Deep darkness, the people. It is prophecy, is going to come to pass. There's nothing we can do about it. One currency, one government is going to come to pass. There's nothing we can do about it. There's no prayer against the Antichrist. It's going to show up. The conviction is that we will not be on ground, and we can take as many people as we can with us. That should be our focus. So whether we like it or not, all of these technology that is attacking human contact is rehearsal and training ground for the future that the world must inherit post-rapture. So we can't reject these things. We have to work with them. The way I put it straight is to say, don't confuse a fact for a truth because for a problem. Sorry. You can't compare facts as a problem. You solve problems, you walk around facts. Anyone that tries to solve a fact is applying to lunacy because you don't solve a fact. I'm a black man. That's a fact. If I want to solve it, I'm going to use my essence as a human being. Yeah. When you are tall, you are tall. You can't make yourself short. I'm a Nigerian. I'm a Nigerian. It's not a problem. It's a fact. So people who try to solve facts move into lunacy. So a fact is that empathy is going to leave the world, otherwise the Antichrist cannot come. And everything happening in our time now is a rehearsal for that period. And all of what we call the tribulation period is an arrangement for the salvation of the Jews, essentially.
That's right.
A lot of Gentiles are going with the rapture. That's a lot of Christians, all Christians are going with the rapture. We should be comforted in that. And when Paul spoke about rapture, and spoke about all of those things, he always ended it by saying, comfort ye one another with these words. Comfort ye one another. The fact that we are not going to be here.
That's right.
We are going to have gone. What has happened, instead of comforting each other with those words, we comfort each other with car, with house, as a testimony of the approval of God. Instead of comforting ourselves with a temporary world, that we are building an unshakable kingdom in a shakeable world. And that the world is shakeable, and that the future of the world will be shakeable, but we are the unshakable construct in a shakeable. And so the world is going to a place. So as a Christian, think timeless. Don't think about the world as to what is happening now. What is happening now is taking us somewhere, and in eternity we are secured. Rapture is we are going to maximize all this technology, make the best use of them, reign, transfer wealth, dominate the world. The Bible says in the last days, the mountain of the Lord's house will be chief of the mountains. They are coming to the church to say, how is Zion doing it? Because whoever will determine the laws of the land, because the Bible says the law will go forth from Zion. And whoever controls the law controls the economy. It means Zion is going to control the economy. COVID is an arrangement. God did not create COVID, but God will use COVID to enthrone his children and to empower us economically. The wealth transfer that we have heard about for years is now the time to experience that takeover. And we are coming into a new place, but when rapture happens, the world is going to come into a final expression of the height of technology, and that time will be without empathy. And that is the reality. So don't be afraid of it. We are not going to see it, but the world is going to see it.
Yeah. Thank you. Here's another question. So this is from Duro Tolua John, DT John, Pastor DT John. There are many people and even pastors who are still operating the analog age. How would these people cope in a post-COVID world?
The sad thing is that there will always be casualties of even the best of moves of heaven. And that those foolishness is a constant. And we for years. That foolishness is a constant. Somebody has to be foolish for wisdom to continue to have value. I mean, there's nothing we can do about that. But all human souls will be visited with the light for their own emancipation. But mortals will have to choose where they want to be. But slavery is a concept that humanity will deal with forever. And so those pastors will have to decide what part of the divide they want to occupy. But today is the day. I believe that COVID is also an arrangement to slow down the system so that those who were out of the loop in their ignorance can catch up.
Wow, that's
time to retreat. God has helped us to slow down the system because a lot of pastors were out of the loop already. They are already lost on their offline experiences. They were already focused on what is going on that they understood. They have given unhealthy loyalty to what they understand that they were out of the loop. But for COVID, they will have been completely extinct post-COVID. And what has happened now is God has given us a compulsory retreat. And a gift to re-strategize and to replan and to take those who are out of the loop back into the loop. Because faithfully, God is amazing. He will build his church and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. He has also used COVID. He didn't create COVID, but he's also using COVID to slow down the system so that those who are out of the loop can play their quick game and catch up to what God is doing now. So there's hope right now. There's big hope.
Okay, another question for you from Hawaiiaro. 9/11 redefined world security and how the world defines security in policies, immigration, movies, education, etc. How do you think the post-COVID-19 world will approach and redefine health? I mean, so here we are in Nigeria where if we ever thought we had any infrastructure, even the secretary to the federal government really recently said, I didn't know things were this bad. I mean, that's a huge one.
It's huge. Part of what I've said again, time and again, is that the next level of colonization will be voluntary. The next level of colonization is going to be voluntary. There will not be any bomb or any gun to force any nation to defer to other nations. The harsh economic conditions of nations is going to nations to strategize, to take a second look at what they know. And I said that it happened in 1965 when the nation Singapore appealed to the nation of Malaysia to absorb Singapore as a state in Singapore.
That's right.
Their president will become a governor, their governor will become maybe local government chairman and all of that. You know, it's not mystery. It actually happened in 1965. That's the sampling that is going to happen in the future. But for discretion's sake, for being discreet, I can mention African nations, third world nations that are jogging full speed into voluntary colonization, who are going to have to appeal to other nations, and some outsource their leadership. So
Wow.
the reality is that when the going gets tough, the tough cannot just keep going because it can get lost. When the going gets tough, the tough seeks collaboration.
Exactly.
And, and
We
dimensions of
evaluate
collaborations
the
are
position.
going to come. I can
Mm,
say some things for free because just like 9/11 disrupted the world, healthcare is going to be more government controlled. If we look at with the way healthcare is in Canada, will be like a perfect model for me. And even the United States, we have to reinvent. As far as I'm concerned, some of the worst healthcare systems in the world is not in Africa; it's in the United States. And
wow.
yeah, because in the United States, you really cannot be treated for your problem. You are treated for the size of your pocket, you know. So you can
That's
receive
the perspective.
healthcare beyond what you can afford, you
Mm,
know. Yeah, unlike in some other countries where you can actually be treated to the depth of your illness, right? So I believe COVID is going to change healthcare policies. There's going to be a lot of legislation around healthcare across the globe. But it's not just healthcare that will be disrupted, right? I also believe that I listed some things. Uh, there's going to be a new economic system globally. I've spoken about the pyramid of a few at the top and the 99% depended on it, right? Um,
yeah.
the, and then there's going to be what I call um, the creation of jobs at an unprecedented level. At an
The
unprecedented
creation of
level
jobs.
of jobs at an unprecedented level. And people, we need to understand that dynamic. You don't want to be amongst those jobs are being created for. You really want to be amongst those creating those jobs.
Creating the jobs. Yeah.
You know, other because if jobs are created for you, you are the 99% automatically.
That's right.
You know, if you create jobs, then you are the 1%. And
Percent.
we have to take that very seriously. And I believe very strongly that this model is going to be completely virtual. In the future, there will not, today, you have online universities and offline universities. In the future, there's just going to be universities and it will be online. You know, online is the line
Hmm.
in post-COVID. Online is the only line. So whatever you do right now, you want to go and look at the technological component of it. You know, if you sell food, how can that be done
Be
online?
done online.
Pastor, you mentioned education. That is a new concept for Nigerian innovators to begin to consider.
That,
Those who
yeah.
are running schools, just like we
Schools.
had boarding schools, day schools,
Mhm.
we should have online school now.
School.
You know, proprietors of schools should begin to set up school online as an option.
That's right.
Advocacy groups should pressurize the Ministry of Education to legislate online education,
Yeah. Yeah.
such that a school can give option to parents to either keep your students your kids in boarding school, in day school, or in online school.
Even at
Homeschooling should, yes,
yeah,
yes, sir.
primary, even at primary school level. So
Yes,
looking at the three tiers, you'd have the
exactly.
option: primary,
Yes,
secondary, and
yes,
tertiary. I
that's
mean,
it.
it's got to be.
Yes, it has to be, whether we like it or not, it's going to happen.
Hmm.
And it is led for us to be the leaders of that innovation now, or to play catch up again and be the every time innovation emerges, there are always the masters of the innovation and the slaves of the innovation. And the
Yeah.
slaves usually are those who are going to consume and pay for it. The creators and the innovators are the masters and the owners of it. Online is the line. And everybody has to get comfortable with that. No matter what you do, whether you are a poet, you are an event manager, the event industry is going to be disrupted. Aviation is going to be disrupted. Real
Wow.
estate is going to be disrupted. And I say to people, the only way to exist in the future in post-COVID is to be a monopoly of some sort. You can't think competition. You have to be able to set your own prices and set your own experiences.
Hmm.
Customer satisfaction is dead. Customer preference is the new reality.
Oh, it's a
Customer
new,
preference,
yeah,
because satisfaction has run its course.
it's
What is
relative.
happening now is that before we know we should use technology. We knew, but technology and its wisdom could not defeat the power of preference. People just prefer to stay offline. They just prefer to do things in a particular way. All of a sudden, the COVID has happened. We are now forced to come online. All preferences are now experiencing
See,
couch, for example, from a restaurant. You now have
yeah,
to order your food from home so that they can
mhm,
bring it to you.
mhm,
Amazon is selling like crazy in this time.
absolutely.
The malls are selling crazy at this time. What is happening is human life, customers are being given a new taste board, and their preferences are being
Yeah,
upgraded. Let
yeah,
nobody assume that when the lockdown is off, people are just going to come out of it.
actually,
Takes 27 days to form a habit.
come on,
27 days. We are going to be locked down for over 40 to 50 days. New habits have been formed. The new entrepreneur must come into rent a space in the hand of customers, understand what new preference is. Because just like it was difficult to get people off their preference to come online, it's going to be very difficult to get anybody to get out of the convenience and the ease of online now.
that
So
is
we have to come into that space and ask
that
questions about how to
that
do that.
is so right. Whoa, showing us. Wow. I mean, this is we're approaching 90 minutes.
Awesome, awesome.
It's really been an amazing time. And I'm sure everyone
Thank you, sir.
who's been on this platform and connected with us has been learning a lot. I mean, these are deep stuff. You're not your unusual um, conversationist, if we put
Mm,
it that way.
mm.
You
Thank you,
make
sir.
one statement and somebody has, it's like a sailor moment. You've got to meditate on it.
Thank you, sir.
This is going to be online for quite a while, so
Great,
people naturally will be able to access the information, and I believe
great,
that will do them a lot of good.
great.
This the next question, and it's going to be one of the last questions. It's really a huge one. So thanks so much for this brilliant meeting. That's from Sunday Udo. Can I ask that you speak to the idea of the possible end of globalization and global production, which seems to be disrupted by COVID-19 and the idea of regionalization to mitigate this risk, risk post-COVID risk. I think maybe throwing a bit of light to that is
Yes,
that the dependency on China. And suddenly, look, literally all the medical supplies and nose mask and literally everything is coming out of China. America woke
yeah,
up and suddenly realized
yeah,
we don't even produce nose masks in America. We're
yeah.
having to depend on China. So China suddenly seems to be the global economy that's controlling other economies. The
Yes,
Japanese government recently um, made a provision of $10 billion. It's a stimulus. It's part of a stimulus package for Japanese manufacturers. And
mm,
literally, what they're saying is any Japanese manufacturer that is producing in China can access the $10 billion and move back to Japan to
great.
produce locally.
Yeah,
So that's another shift in the dynamics in terms of
yes,
manufacturing, production,
yes, yes.
globalization. So
Correct.
is our world, remember Thomas Friedman said it's flat. Uh,
Yes.
is it getting a you know are we going back to round now
I think our world remains flat. Technology is going to keep our world flat. I believe so very strongly. And
yeah.
I'm part of that. I also think that China is enjoying a very temporary bliss, you
Mhm.
know, because everybody believes China is going to take over the world except the Chinese himself, you know.
Okay.
And the reason why the Chinese will perpetually nurse a self doubt is because all of what is going on in China is horizontal expansion. It's not vertical.
Mm,
Vertical is 0 to 1. That's the energy of invention. That's the energy that created the world, moving from nothing to something. But horizontal expansion is 1 to infinity. It means there must be something on ground to improve, right?
Yeah.
So the energy of spreading, the energy of procreation, for example, is horizontal. But the energy that created Adam is vertical, is horizontal, is from nothing to something, is 0 to 1. Now, the energy of horizontal thinking is copying. And so when you build an entire civilization based on your ability to copy, you are perpetually intimidated by the fact of the inventiveness you are here to create. And so China is going to have to deal with its capacity to invent as opposed to its masterfulness in copying. All right. And then China still has to deal with the limits of its language, because to take over the world, we have to speak language. China has to teach us how a superpower can take over the world without the world speaking its language. When the Romans were in power, we spoke Latin. When the Greeks were in power, we spoke Greek. When the British were in power, we spoke British, English. How do we speak Mandarin? How does Mandarin become? Because if we can't teach the world your culture, you cannot govern the world. So that is still a symposium discussion. But what is true is that just like Japan has done, the Americans are going to have to bring a lot of production back home as well. And that is going to affect China. And the world is going to fight back. They're going to fight back very strongly, because for so many reasons, it is necessary that the world fights back. But I'm not going to dwell on that. But to answer that question of globalization again, globalization has ended. It has run its course. Okay? Because globalization actually is an unfavorable system. It favors countries that can move around the world without the limits of visas. It did not pleasure third world countries, for example. And so goods from America can easily move around the world. Ideas from America can come to Africa, but African ideas have to survive the limitation of a visa before it can move out of Africa. And that is unfair trade. But we've come to a higher place called borderlessness. Borderlessness, transcends the limits of visas and geography. It is the ability of a human power to stay on one point and attract purchasing power from all over the world, and attract patronage from all over the world without the benefit of movement. And ISIS, sadly, the evil construct called ISIS, maximized that very well. They didn't have business development experts. They did not have business cards. They didn't need to do websites, but they were recruiting soldiers from all over the world, and they were doing that ideologically. And that's why I say to people, even businesses in post-COVID has to be ideological. You have to rent a space in the heads of people, in the hearts of people, and compel them to unlock a loyalty towards your idea, whether they like it or not. So we are in the generation of stories and narratives. 10 years ago, you can't start a sentence with so. You cannot start a statement. They don't give you a mark and you start a statement with so. You can't do that 10 years ago. But today you can do that. It tells you that we are telling a story. Every action of man is within a script and within a story. Wow. So we are a continuous story. And so I want to challenge everybody out there to think borderless. Technology and data giving us the instrument to operate borderless. And so don't limit yourself to globalization. Ideas can move around the world. Goods are moving around the world, and they are moving on one spot. Supply chain will be the new king, and all of us can plug into that. And it can bring incredible comfort and incredible economic comfort to hitherto underdog nations, underdog businesses, and underdog families and individuals.
Wow. Well, PK, what else can we say? It looks like we'll have to bring this conversation to a close.
Awesome. Please.
It has been such, I tell you, I value our relationship.
I know, sir.
It's amazing
it's priceless to me.
God plugged us in. There's a statement you've always made. It's been a reference one for me, that if we are related, we will meet. We will meet, sir. That was how our meeting was. If we are connected in the spirit, God would orchestrate it.
It
And
is.
honestly, I have been blessed by
Pastor
knowing.
Charles, I really want to thank you for your visionary commitment. You have always been someone that has always been so nimble and elastic, and always ready for newness. And I always celebrate that. It's so easy, for you to come into this space. I was talking somewhere and I said, people like Pastor Charles will be jumping where they are right now because, you know,
I'm
all
so
you have
used.
always said, the things you've carried in your heart for years,
I'm so
are being
used to
validated
this.
like never before.
I'm so
You
used to
know.
this now that I think I don't have a problem getting back to normal. Normal.
No. I really want to thank you for your visionary commitment. It's a privilege to be connected with you. I feel so inspired and blessed every time. I thank you again and again for the gift of access. I do not take it for granted. I
Thank you.
congratulate all the men, women, and young people that are plugged under your leadership and all those who draw from the work that is going on, under your care, sir. I want to thank you for your solidity for your mental solidity, your spiritual solidity, your emotional solidity, and your visionary commitment. I want to encourage everyone, this is the best time to rally around what we are doing. Please, I want to leave with this. When it's Sunday morning, don't just wake up in the morning to come online. The voices of reasoning are scarce. I want to
Hmm.
recommend that you stay plugged into this type of platform. Pastor Shaws is a voice for today. Yeah, it's a voice for the now. And when you wake up in the morning, don't just go out with your track down without brushing. I'm not asking you to go and wear a suit, but there's a sense of casualness that come into play when you just get down and you are in your sitting room and you are doing church there. There's just a level of connection. So put a level of seriousness in. Have your bath, shower. You can still
Yeah,
be in your t-shirt. You can still be in your track down, but take it seriously. We are still church is still church.
that's right.
Don't be defeated by the change that we have had, and there is an indulgence that is also coming in this time, and so many people are falling out of depth of association with the Lord, and we are coming into an unguardedness
Yes.
and a sense of apathy and indolence. Let us
Hmm.
shake it off and get serious. I'm not asking you to go wear a suit in front of your TV on Sunday, but I'm saying, get serious.
Some
Get your
serious.
pen, get your paper, rally your family round. Online is the life. This is church going forward. Let's enjoy it and embrace it with all love. Thank you,
Hallelujah.
sir.
Thank you so, so much. And well, we will connect offline and online
Yes,
and
sir.
just keep doing that. And please, my love to your family as
I'll
well.
do so. I'll do
Stay
so.
safe, keep safe.
Amen. Thank
God
you.
bless you. God
God
bless
bless
you.
you too, sir. Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, I'm sure you've been, tremendously blessed by this time with Olakunle showing you. This, like I said, this is the beginning of several conversations of this nature that are going to be taking place. And I think it's important just right now to, acknowledge some of the people who, have been on the platform and some of their comments. Oyinloye, good seeing you. Very apt. I'm glad to be listening to this. Damilola Ojo, good to have you here. Um, it's interesting, Sunkomi Tekayoade, yes, boss. So he's acknowledging someone. Pastor Bob Alonge, good to know that you could connect with us on this platform. Let's see who else was out there. Mike Akubo, awesome insight into the events of the future. Amos Joseph, speed, more time efficiency, and less stress, advantages of technology. Amazing to know that you really were catching on to what was being said. Someone said, awesome. That's all he could say. Let's see who else was out there. The imaginative zone, deep. Awesome, 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 awesome. Thank God for the gift of the Holy Spirit. Awesome moment from Prince. Scamble Morrison, Pastor Scamble, good to know that you were on this platform as well. It's just such an awesome time. Well, this is from my dear brother, Victor Ladokun. Thanks, Pastor Adese, for facilitating an excellent discourse. We want to appreciate every one of you. Pastor Joseph Onilede, awesome conversation here, great work. We want to appreciate every one of you for joining us. And I'm sure that this has been such a tremendous time of blessing for you. I want to bring this to your notice also, that we are going to be coming up sometime on Thursday. We're coming up with a special broadcast, and we're going to be looking at the economic impact of a post-COVID world, the economic impact of a post-COVID world. And we're bringing in some experts who are going to be throwing a lot of light and helping, to dispel the darkness that may be in our hearts and in our lives. And we have Paul Alaje, Enesi Makoju, and Opwene Jonah as well. That's going to be on Thursday at 7 p.m. So I look forward to having you here again. It really has been an awesome time. Thank you for joining us. So we look forward to seeing you. Well, tomorrow, Wednesday, the Lighthouse is having a service. So we're going to be on at 6 p.m. And I'm going to be hosting Pastor Daniel in a conversation on faith, healing, and prayers. And Pastor Daniel is one who carries the healing grace of God, and he understands healing and, the dynamics of it. So he's going to be on with me tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we'll be having a conversation on the economic impact of a post-COVID world. And we have sound people, experts who are going to be here with us. So thank you for joining us. From me to you, my heart goes out to you, and I trust that the things you've heard, the Lord will use it, and use it to spark a major move in your life. Thank you. Have a lovely evening. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow and on Thursday as well. Have a wonderful evening.